All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining today. We are going to be getting started in just a couple of minutes, so feel free to sit tight. We will be getting started at 3 p.m. EST, pretty much on the dot, so I'll just let some folks get in while we wait. In the meantime, I did just want to let you know a couple of things. There will be a follow-up email that will have a recording of today's webinar so that you can view it at any other point in time if you want, or share it with anyone who you think might be interested in. But additionally, if you have any questions at any point, there is a question box and you can send those in, and at the very end of the webinar, I'll be able to go over all of that with y'all. I can answer questions, go a bit more in depth on some things, or clarify something if you would like me to. So again, we will be getting started in just a couple of minutes, so sit tight for now. All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Maxine Nebro. I work over at Tutor.com, and today we're going to be talking about how Tutor.com can really help your kindergarten through sixth grade students, and how it can help them with coursework or just kind of building those fundamentals. So we can go ahead and get started. The first thing that we want to go over today is how to actually access the program. So the way that you're going to do this is by heading over to scdiscus.org, and you can find us in a myriad of ways, A through Z resources by grade level, potentially by subject as well. We'll just go A through Z, and you scroll all the way down to tutor.com. Now you get here, once you click this button or click this image, you'll be brought right over into the program and you'll see a screen just like this. So one thing to keep in mind while you or anybody that you know will be using the program is once they authenticate into the program, they're actually going to be accessing as a guest. So that means they don't need to create any sort of account and they can get the live one-to-one tutoring when they need it. Now, creating an account is incredibly helpful and it unlocks a lot of extra features. The reason I say it's helpful is because by creating an account, you're going to be able to actually have voice tutoring sessions with our tutors, which can be really great for younger students who are practicing their reading, or maybe if they don't understand science or something like that, it can be easier to get that knowledge across to a student by talking than just by typing. So that is always an option. Creating an account is super simple. You just hit create an account and you enter in this information here. Now, one thing that I will say is I always recommend that, let's say a third grader wants to have access to this program, that their parent create an account for them under their parent's information. Now, the reason I say this is because then again, all that identifying information, so that the email address and stuff like that is under the parent's name. And because of that and their date of birth, the account will not be a COPA account. Now, what happens when you have a COPA account is, since that is decided based on the date of birth provided, if I show that I am 13 years or younger, I'll have a COPA account and I'll be locked out of some features because I can't, like we as a company cannot keep that identifying information. But if the parent is entering everything under their own information, their name, their email address, which is going to be the username, the parent's date of birth, none of that will be an issue. And then the student can have access to all of those extra features. So again, that is why I highly recommend that when talking to parents or when creating your own accounts for your own children, you create it under your own information. It also allows you to have a little bit more control over seeing what sessions your children are having or the kids are having. You can review all of that kind of stuff. You can set favorite tutors. So it does really make it a little bit easier for the parent to be a bit more involved. But I already have an account, so I can just log in and hopefully it remembers. Perfect. And now, as you can see, the home screen looks the same for the most part, except for the top screen or the top navigation bar where everything is now bolded. That means I now have access to all of that. So again, creating an account really opens things up. But the main thing that you, your students, or your children are going to be using is Connect with a Tutor Now. Now, essentially, you just fill out this little tiny survey to get some information or to give some information to our tutors on what needs to happen in the session. So I can say I'm struggling in math and I'm in elementary school. I'm in third grade. You can decide how you want to chat back and forth. So if you only want to have a chat session, a student can do that. If they want to be able to speak back and forth, they can click that and it will allow them to talk back and forth. We can do chat only now. And then you type in your question. So I like to explain this as it can be as generic or as specific as you need. That means if I am struggling with FOIL problems, I can just type in, I don't understand FOIL problems, or I don't understand FOIL equations, and the tutor is going to be able to pull up some practice examples and go through them that way. Or let's say I was working on my third grade math homework assignment and there was one question that I was struggling with. I asked my parents don't know how to help me, and they sit me down to have a session. I can type out that specific question. I can even attach that PDF or an image as an attachment so that the tutor has all the information that they need. And then once I hit connect now, in about a minute or so, they'll be connected to a tutor in our online classroom. And again, this is super simple to use. I've gone on actually a couple of different trips a year or so ago working with elementary school students, and they've been able to kind of grab onto this online classroom and use it with no problem. So it's very simple to use. All you do is just click to draw whatever it is that you need to draw. The tutor can also interact on this whiteboard, so it's a very collaborative experience, which is super helpful for young students. You can bring in different shapes. You can change the color, which is always fun for some of the younger students. But the coolest thing is that they can, again, import a picture. So let's say I was having this session with my mother and we wanted to bring in my homework assignment. We can take a picture and import that in. So it will be with the tutor. So they have, again, everything that they need to know. Formula is not going to be super helpful, especially for kindergarten through sixth grade, but we do have some different formulas that are able to be brought in and then thrown into the top corner. And then lastly, there are shapes. So again, if we're doing any kind of problems on like adding the different lengths of the sides, or maybe just plotting some simple graphs, all of that can be done within the classroom. And again, while this isn't probably the most useful for our younger students, I did want to just show off that if you bring in a graph right over here, in the bottom left-hand corner, you actually have the option to change the whiteboard to a graph board or graph paper. And you can just expand this, line things up, and then you can do a simple plot. So again, the whiteboard in the classroom is extremely adaptable to whatever it is that the student is working on. Now, we don't need to go over the graphing calculator or the code editor, but I will show that you can actually create multiple different whiteboards. So again, if I'm working on maybe a more complex math problem or a science problem, I can create as many whiteboards as I need, and all of that information is getting saved so that I can kind of flip through them if needed. Now, next is a text editor, and this is kind of helpful if there's any kind of writing assignment that's going on. Now, typically not a lot of that does happen, but if they do have to write a small little passage about themselves or their favorite song or something like that in class, they can bring that in here and start writing that out and working with a tutor. Now, if I decided to have a chat only session, this is what it would look like in the bottom right hand corner. You just type back and forth. And again, for the most part, young students are going to be able to grasp this and understand how it works because it's very simple to just like kind of any other platform that is being used nowadays. But if you decide to have a voice session, which in order to have a voice session, you need to create an account and it needs to be under the parent's information, they can click connect via voice and it will let you or basically let you use your computer as an audio device so you can plug in a headset and talk that way. And again, I always recommend that parents are involved in this because I do understand some of their concerns or worries. So it just makes it a little bit easier, but that is another option that students have to work with tutors online. Once you're done, you just hit end session. There will be a short little survey. But one of the cool things is in that survey, there will be the option to send somebody the transcript. Now you may be asking, why does a fifth grader need to send anybody a transcript? They can send the transcript to their parents so that their parents can see what work it is that they're doing. They can maybe send the transcript to the teacher to show that, hey, I'm working on my homework and you asked me to get some extra help. Here, I'm doing that. They can send it to themselves. So again, they can kind of keep track of their own stuff. It just makes it very easy for somebody who doesn't have an account to keep all that information in one place and have access to that at a later point in time. Now, if I already have an account created, so let's say I actually had a session right now, all of my sessions are going to be saved under the My Sessions tab. And obviously I don't have any sessions, so it's blank here, but they would be listed here and you can go through them, look at the transcript, watch the video of the session taking place. So I can watch in real time as I drew this smiley face or this plot graph, stuff like that. So all that information is available for both the parent and the student to be working with. Now, we have a bunch of different topics. Math isn't the only one. It tends to be the easiest one for me to explain because I was never good at it. But as I mentioned, if your student or if your child is practicing reading, for example, they can choose elementary reading, their grade level, what it is they're working on. If they are reading something from a site, they can drop that in here. If they are reading, again, off of like a piece of paper, they can take a picture of that and upload that to the session. And that is, again, where having a voice session is going to be really helpful. You click chat and voice, connect, and then you can actually speak back and forth. So it's going to be really, really helpful for those reading subjects. And again, I highly recommend you actually kind of go through all of these different things and see what might be most applicable to you, your students, your children. Because again, we also have elementary science, we have social studies, we have writing, we even have support for ELL or ESL students. So all of that is going to be available to your students or your children. Now, the next thing that I want to show off was actually under our take a quiz option. So this is probably more towards fifth and sixth grade, but we do have a lot of different things from algebra, biology, things that you start to learn early middle school, and tons of quizzes for you to take. And again, it's kind of like any online quiz application. You just go through it. It will tell you what your score is at the very end. And there will also be, if I click review, an option to discuss with a tutor. So let's say I didn't understand question one, I got it wrong. I can hit discuss with the tutor and it's going to pre-fill out this information with a link to the quiz, what math topic it is most associated with, and all of that so that it makes it a little bit easier so that me as a student can kind of get that help in that topic. And we have hundreds of quizzes and these will be really helpful kind of again starting from late elementary school all the way up through high school. So it's a resource that will really be able to stay with students. Next off is our watch videos for math and English. Now, this says math and English, but it doesn't specify an age, and there's a reason for that. So essentially, this was created primarily for a younger audience for late elementary school, early middle school. But we found that this can actually be helpful for a wide range of students, including parents who are trying to be involved in their children's education. Because if there's one thing that we've all heard and kind of joked about over the past, like, I don't know, 10 years, at least that I can remember, is that math changes how it's taught every year. So this is just an easy way for parents to maybe understand the newer ways that some of these math topics are being taught. And that way the parent can watch these videos and understand more and actually help their child more. Again, it just allows them to be a little bit more involved in that education process as a support for their own children. So that's kind of a really good thing to keep in mind. But again, this is perfect for any late elementary school, early middle school students, and we have dozens and dozens of different videos across all of these different topics. So there's a ton of information in here for students. The last thing that I want to highlight is what we call our study skills resource library. So all you have to do in order to get there is go to connect with a tutor now and scroll down to view study resources. Now here we basically scour the web. We have thousands of different websites, resources, worksheets, flashcards, videos that are available to students. But one of the cooler ones that we have is actually Tutor.com created worksheets for kindergarten through 5th grade. Kindergarten's a little bit further down because this is in alphabetical order. But all you have to do is choose whatever grade level that your student or your child is in. So let's say, again, I'm 3rd grade. I can go view 23 different sample tests and worksheets that we have created. Like we've had our tutors go through them, create them, we've vetted them all. And then you can just download them. And they're going to be super helpful when working with students or when students are working on their own. They'll look like this. They have a couple of different questions on them, and it's very simple to use in all honesty. And students can also bring these PDFs into the classroom. So again, let's say I was doing this example. I didn't understand how to get the answer for question 2. I can go to connect with a tutor now, choose elementary math, select my grade level, and then attach that as a file so that the tutor has that information. We can go over that worksheet. So again, it's really helpful to just kind of play around with the resources that we have in there. And there's most likely going to be something that you, your students, or your child will find helpful. Now, that's just about it when it comes to kind of the different resources that you can use for your younger students through tutor.com. If anybody does have any questions, by all means, submit those, and I'm more than happy to answer them. And while I wait for questions, I did just want to also highlight what we call our favorite tutors. So essentially, as I'm working with tutors, sometimes it's hard to find a tutor that really speaks to me and teaches in a way that makes sense, because everybody does learn a little bit differently. So if I find a tutor that I really liked and I have an account created, I can save that tutor and then see when they're going to be available to work with next. So it does allow for some more consistency in that education practice for a student. And plus, if somebody finds some tutor that they like working with, they're more likely to come in and use the service more and more. And that will just have, ramifications down the line and can really help their grades moving forward. So again, if there are any questions, please let me know. If there's anything that you want me to go over, any other topics that you want to ask, by all means, let me know. I'll leave the floor open for a couple of minutes. So I've seen 2 questions come in so far. The first is support in other languages. So we do have support in other languages. We have Spanish and Vietnamese. And essentially, you just click the drop down, switch over to Spanish or Vietnamese. And you'll have access to tutoring in all of those core subjects. So math, science, social studies, writing, as well as the student success and parent success study skills coaching. So the student success and parent success is stuff like keeping on track, studying, taking notes, all that kind of stuff. And writing is one of our newest ones in Spanish. And this is perfect for anybody who is primarily a Spanish or Vietnamese speaking student, and they're more comfortable talking to talking to a teacher in Spanish, and working it that way. And again, you have access to all of these different topics. The next was when is live tutoring available? So for English tutoring options, it is available 24/7, as well as Spanish, with the exception of the writing in Spanish and the study skills. Those are only available between, I believe it is 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. And then Vietnamese is a little bit more particular. I believe that's 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. So again, most of your students are going to have access to all of this basically anytime that they need. Someone just asked, how do you get here through Discus, and do we do grades past 8th, or do we tutor past 8th grade? So great question. How to get to it is super simple. You just go to scdiscus.org. And if I go here, once you're at the scdiscus.org, you just go to A to Z resources and scroll all the way down to tutor.com, or you can go through your local library's website, and there will be a way to do it that way as well. And once I click this button, I'll be brought into the program and see a page pretty similar to this. We also do offer tutoring from actually kindergarten all the way through adult. So there is a ton of more information and resources, like submitting papers for review, getting career help, dropping off math questions. It isn't really applicable to today's webinar, which is kindergarten through 6th grade only. But we will be having another webinar focusing on 7th grade through 12th grade. So definitely sign up for that one if you're able to. And I hope that answers your question. The other question is, what web address do we use to access and create an account? And again, all you have to do is go to scdiscus.org, go to A to Z resources, click on tutor.com, and you'll be brought right here. And let me sign out again. You'll be brought to a page that looks like this. And to create an account, all you have to do is click any of these grayed out buttons or create an account, and it will bring you to a page like this where you just enter in the information. And again, for anybody who wasn't here when I first mentioned, I highly recommend that if you are doing this for your own child, or if you're talking to parents about this, I would have the parent create the account under their own information. And again, the reason is because we are COPA compliant. And if a student were to do this and show that they were only 8 years old through the date of birth, then they'll have a limited account due to COPA compliance. So I always recommend the parents create the account, and it also just makes it a little easier for them to be involved and to kind of see what is going on and what their child is doing. So I hope that answers both of your questions. I'll leave the floor open for a couple more minutes. All right, it doesn't look like there are any other questions. Again, there is one more. Let's see. All right, so if you are getting that link that says, let's see, to enter a Discus username and password, what I would recommend is reaching out to that email address or that phone number, and they'll provide you with that. That is just, it doesn't always happen but occasionally you will get that screen. So again, reach out to them. They'll be able to provide a username and password for you to access that way. Again, if you have a local library near you and you have a valid library card, you can access through that library's website as well, and we should be on there. Let's see. Is there a limit to the number of times you can use this? There is no limit to the number of times that you can have a session, take a quiz, download resources, watch videos. There is no limit for any of that. You can have it as many times as you or your child would like. One thing to keep in mind is that our tutors have been kind of trained to keep sessions shorter just because we found that a shorter session tends to help alleviate a lot of the frustration that children have. So normal sessions will take about 20 minutes. They can obviously go past that, but I also just wanted to kind of let you know like the average length of a session is 20 minutes. And if you have a tutoring session, our tutor's not going to go through every single question on a homework assignment. Let's say there are 10, because we want to provide students with the tools to understand these subjects or to do it on their own. Otherwise, because we're not exactly an answering service, we want to actually tutor students to get them through that process, if that makes sense. But there's no limit to how many times you can connect to a tutor or use any of these resources that I showed off. All right. Looks like that's it. And it looks like some folks are hopping off now. If there are any other questions, you should have my email address. Just reply to the registration email or the follow-up email, and I'll be able to help out. But again, I hope you all found this helpful. And I also hope that you join the next webinar that's happening tomorrow as well. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day, everybody.